Welcome back to the VHS Vault. I'm your host, VHS Jason. Next to me, of course, is the great Jason Roy Gaston. Here we are again, Jace.
Indeed we are, and I'm excited over this one.
We're talking to our third brother from another mother, Jason Voorhees, once again. For this one, Jason Lives.
Yes.
Jason Lives.
Yes.
It's really a surprise this film even really got made after, really, the last film. You know, I'm surprised that this film even kind of got greenlit. But you had told me that it made more money than I thought it had. Battle Cat agrees.
Battle Cat is here.
If you can't guess, guys, Battle Cat is back and returning to the screen.
Battle Cat lives.
So Battle Cat's not surprised the movie got made. What about you? You surprised it got made, Jace?
I am not surprised because Friday the 13th Part 6, despite the fact that it is my favorite of the series, and despite the fact that it still holds up on what must be my bajillionth viewing of it, was made because the studio was cowardly. The creators of the franchise wanted to take it one way where Tommy Jarvis became the new Jason and continued his killing spree, and the studio was all like, nah, bring back the old guy. How? Make him a zombie. That doesn't make him a zombie! And even though it was studio cowardice, I'm very pleased that the studio
was the right choice.
It was the right choice, and this movie's magnificent. It's magnificent.
It works. It is. I mean, yeah, to get the cat out of the bag, this is by far the strongest movie in the franchise so far. And I will give props to the director here because he changed the tone in a way that works very well. And they don't hold back from the beginning of this film. He informs the audience, this is a different type of movie. We're going to have some fun tonight.
Yes.
And they do that with that great Bond intro.
Yes, they do. And beyond that, this movie looks fantastic through and through.
Production value-wise, yeah.
Yes, and it's funny because the budget was not really seriously increased. It's just you have some mad skills behind the camera this time around. And so this movie is very atmospheric, and the shots are composed so well. I just love this movie. I love it, and I'm so happy that it was made, and I'm happy that it's here, and I'm happy that we can enjoy it.
Yes, and you know, shockingly, I will say this, it holds up extremely well for a film that was made in 1986, I believe. Yes,
1986, yes.
And it holds up in a way because the movie moves at a pace, Jason.
So yes, the movie does run at a very fantastic pace that begins... Oh, great, he's back. That begins with the first scene, and there's very little wasted energy, very little wasted scenery. They just get right into the action. They give the audience exactly what they want. Jason shows up in the first 5 minutes, and from there on out, it is a audience-pleasing movie.
It's really about... They'd earned the point to be able for the audience to come in and suspend, suspend any kind of sense of reality here. So they were in a good position to go, you know what? We're going to start it off with a grave digging and a lightning strike. How does he come back? Lightning strike. How does this work? Doesn't matter.
Don't know.
Doesn't matter. His eyes open. He's back. And I love that.
I love the
fact that you're getting on with business immediately.
I love the fact that Tommy Jarvis, through all these years of pain and suffering and psychological trauma, reaches a catharsis where he basically just vandalizes Jason's grave, brutalizes the body, and for a moment you realize, oh, he's reached inner peace. He's at peace with himself. And then lightning hits the grave and Jason comes back to life. So, hold on.
Yeah.
You are not going to do this without my keyboard.
He had a few moments of peace at least. However, the idea of that, I felt You know when he went with his mate, no, we're going to burn the body. We're going to turn it to ash. I'm like, is that a line to try to retroactively fix the continuity error where it said Jason was ashes in the
I
previous
don't
movie?
think they care.
Nah, I don't think
They
it.
just
I
don't care.
probably read a bit much into that, but I loved it anyway.
Stop it.
Yeah. You know who I was shocked and reminded who was in this? Who was Tommy's buddy?
That was Horshack. I don't know the actor's name, but that's Horshack from Welcome Back, Kotter. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's a fine actor. And even his small scene in his role, he sells what he's going to do. He's going to play the goofy friend who's questioning, why are we here? What are we doing? This is really scary.
Yes. Yes.
So I thought it was great. The energy of this opening scene, to me, it's set just like this movie is going to be nuts.
I love how Horshack is the voice of reason in this movie, and they just straight up kill him in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like, no, we don't need a voice of reason. This is a Friday the 13th movie. We know what we are. You have no business being here.
He's the Janet Leigh of this film. We think we're going to, like, he's going to, if we think we're going to follow this character all the way through the film, no, we're killing him off.
Here's an interesting piece of trivia for you. Well, two pieces of trivia. Corey Feldman cameos in this movie as well as an audio. You hear kid Corey Feldman saying, die, die, die.
I thought they just sampled that from 4. Or did he re-record that?
Well, no, that's a cameo. Whether or not it was new footage, it's still a cameo. And this is an interesting tidbit for you. The part of Horshack was supposed to be Reggie from Part 5. Ooh. Yes, and the actor who played Reggie was all ready to come back, and then found out that Reggie was going to get killed off in the first 10 minutes, and said no, thank you, and thus Horshack was brought in.
Oh man, that's disappointing to hear because that would have been. I mean, that would have been the first bit of major continuity they paid attention to.
Yeah. Shavar Ross, by the way, was the actor's name.
Yeah. Reggie, who was Reggie.
Reggie.
Yeah.
Which I would have been disappointed if they killed Reggie off, because I liked Reggie.
I suppose this way, yeah. Reggie, you can at least feel like Reggie's still kicking around somewhere.
Do you want to know something else
that's interesting? Being the best Reggie he can be.
Yeah. You want to know something else that's interesting about this movie? Mm. This is the first Friday the 13th movie with no nudity in it. As a matter of fact, they were so scared that this movie was going to get a PG-13 rating that they upped the violence.
How did I not notice there were no
There is no nudity
anywhere?
No bits and body parts, no anatomy. There is that one scene, but they don't show anything.
No, they don't.
So there's absolutely no nudity in Part 6. You can show this to the entire family. Make a good family night out of this one.
No, it's an interesting choice to do that, and again, it sounds like the director's choice, 100%, and a smart thing to do after the egregious amount of nudity we got in the last film.
Yes, they got a little bit of blowback because of that too. There was a lot of allegations against that director. But speaking of continuity, it is very apparent that this is now the third actor to play Tommy Jarvis. This one being Mr. Tom Matthews, who I am a fan of Tom Matthews because he's been in 2 of my favorite horror movies of all time. This one and Return of the Living Dead, along with 2 other Friday the 13th alums. One of them is Miguel Nunez Jr., and another one is, I can't remember this actress's name, but she was the final girl from the last movie. They're all in Return of the Living Dead together. John Shepherd, who, as I said, is a very fine actor, obviously dedicated to his craft because he actually went and studied in a respite home for mentally damaged people before finding out that he was in a Friday the 13th movie. He decided he did not want to come back for this movie because in the meantime, between Part 5 and the onset of the filming for this movie, he went and became a born-again Christian and decided that he did not want to be in this movie.
Well, if you're going to be associated with, if they're your choices, Jesus or Jason Voorhees, yeah, I can see why he would choose Jesus.
Well, both returned from the dead. So,
totally.
I mean, yeah.
Totally. Can I do a shout out to the big metal rod that was skewered for you, Jason, and became the conduit for the lightning? Because that metal rod he kills 3 people with that one rod.
And for some reason,
Highly unlikely for Jason.
big metal rods become a running theme through the rest of these movies. They just seem to appear in every single movie.
Yeah, it's like that Simpson episode. We need to celebrate. Hooray!
The inanimate carbon rod. Yes. I also had to laugh at the very beginning because as soon as Jason returns from the dead and starts, lumbering towards Tommy does not waste a second. He starts dousing Jason with gasoline, and he goes to set him on fire, and it starts raining. Tommy, I hate to tell you, but the universe hates you.
Yes. At that point, I would say, firstly, maybe invest in a Zippo.
I remember the first time I ever heard that there was a part 6. There was this series on Showtime. I keep going back to Showtime, but that was where I got most of my movies back then. I was 10 years old, and there was this movie critic named Bill Harris who would preview the movies coming out, and he started previewing Friday the 13th Part 6. And my first thought was, wow, 6? I didn't know that they made movies that went up that high. And he just railed against this movie. Like, he could not believe they made it. What a waste of film. Yeah. I can't believe that people are actually paying to go see this. I was 10 years old at the time, so I did not go see it in theaters. But whenever it came out on Showtime a few years later, I gobbled it up. I thought it was the best one. Still think it's the best one. And I think it will always be the best one.
Well, it's a franchise saver. Like,
yes,
let's be honest here. If this film had flopped, or the fans didn't appreciate it, franchise was dead.
Yes.
This movie alone sustained the franchise for another 5 movies, in my honest
We never would have gotten Jason Takes Manhattan if it was not
Never.
for this movie. And for that, we should be thankful.
I 100% agree, because it's this movie that's brave and bold enough to take those kind of jumps, the suspension of disbelief, the idea of we're going to take it to things don't need to make sense. What needs to make sense is the kills are awesome. You get a little bit scared, and everyone has a bit of fun.
It's funny though. This movie inadvertently makes something make sense that never made sense before, and that is Jason's extraordinarily rabid monkey strength that he's always had, being able to hold up people with one hand. It never made sense until this movie, but now you're just like, he's a zombie. It makes sense. Now he can fold people in half. He can put his fist through people. It's just great.
The fist through the chest that's your statement kill, right?
Absolutely. It's like, this is a brand new Jason.
It's like, we're going this direction, people. Hold on tight.
Yep.
But the guy he picked, and he throws against the tree, right? And my wife groans and goes, "Oh, did he make a happy face smile?" I said, No, that was there before. It was just a good aim. He
just colored it. Yeah, that's all.
But isn't that the one where he ripped off the arm? And he looks at the arm?
He gets his two other signature pieces in this movie, because he got the hockey mask in Part 3. It was not until this movie that he got his machete. And we know he loves that machete because he carried it with him 300 years into the future. Wow. The other thing he picked up in this movie was his signature slow walk.
Yeah.
Jason will always be able to walk faster than you can run. I don't know how it works. It just does. There's
one particular scene where he looks at least 200-300 meters behind this person. And they cut to I think it's the sheriff, where he catches up with the sheriff and one of the deputies, like, instantly. And it's great because I'm like, that's a choice made in the editing bay. You knew everyone would go, wait, what? But who cares at this point? Because Jason's supernatural.
Yep, so it doesn't matter.
You know what I mean? You may think he's walking slow, but he's always one step ahead.
Yeah. If you are looking for anything to make sense by Part 6 of a Friday the 13th franchise where the killer gets brought back to life by a lucky lightning strike, I don't know what to tell you. You need a life. Just accept it by this point. It does not make sense. It never will.
I've got a question for you about the film overall, though. This film deals with one of the tropes in the 80s, especially around your alien invasion type of genre pictures and things like that, where the troubled teen comes into town and the sheriff doesn't believe him.
Yes.
But I'm thinking to myself, this is one of the early ones. Because the other film that pops into my head is The Blob.
Yes,
the
The Blob.
With Kevin, yes.
Where, and Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Yes, which is our film that we've just done. So you'll have
Yes.
to check that out. Remember to check that out on YouTube. Yes, that's another one, Troubled Teen. Can't wait to talk about him, by the way. So it's a trope, but it doesn't feel like a trope in this. It actually feels organic to the character, if that makes sense.
I think it's organic to the character, and it's organic to the situation that they've set up, because this is a town that's trying to bury its past, and then you have somebody who was directly involved in it, and he shows up. Of course you're going to think he's just there trying to cause problems, or he's having some kind of mental breakdown. It makes sense. It's not that, oh, I want you to stay away from my daughter, or, oh, you punk kid. No, it makes perfect sense.
Most of them, mate, the sheriff may have the opinions like, mate, you did kill those people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's left very, we know Roy. They discover Roy, but it doesn't mean a lot of people die that night.
Yes. Yes.
So, but either way, yeah, I like the sheriff in this. He doesn't ham it up too much, though. I think he's quite good, and he's got family involved here with his daughter, who's the female character that's all about taking risks, goes with her gut instinct, because she instantly is digging on Tommy and kind of excited about, certain elements of that young lad. So, she's all Team Tommy straight away, and he needs help. He needs help in this movie.
He does. He needs lots of help in this movie.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
Yes,
that's such a great shot. Look at that.
It is a great shot, and one of the most iconic shots of Jason.
The way that he's lit against that black background, that is talent right there. This is a level I honestly did not think this series would ever reach. This movie was Scream before Scream was even a thing. I mean, so many lines. The victims after Horseshack, right after the opening credits. The guy who killed Patrick Swayze in Ghost.
Yes. Man.
Him and
he deserved to die.
Yes, he did. Him and his girlfriend are in the car, and she stops the car, and he says, "What's wrong? Why are you stopping?" He goes, "Because I know I've seen enough horror movies to know that anybody wearing a mask is never good news." You can take that on two levels. One, that's the movie being meta. Two, that's a character being smart. It's not, both. Oh, look, it's a guy in the middle of the night holding a machete and wearing a hockey mask. I wonder if he's friendly.
It's both, because they break the fourth wall in this too, because we're going to get a crazy old guy who breaks the fourth wall. I mean, he looks directly into camera in the graveyard scene when Tommy goes back to show the cops the grave.
Yep. One of my favorite lines in the whole movie.
Strange idea of entertainment.
Some folks got a strange idea of entertainment. He's talking to the audience. It's like, you sickos, what are you doing here?
And that's fine. And it doesn't seem jarring. It just doesn't. I just don't know if it's the way that
what it is.
The film.
I believe this movie has a sense of humor that overcomes the franchise cynicism. Because this series, especially in the early days, it can come off as mean-spirited, especially part 5. But with this new sense of humor and this I want to say lighthearted, but I don't know if lighthearted is the right words.
Yeah.
It overcomes that mean-spiritedness, and it does it without punching down. And I think that this was absolutely the right way to go. Incidentally, that the kills with the guy who killed Patrick Swayze and his girlfriend, the actress Nancy McLaughlin was almost killed for real.
Oh, explain.
The shot where Jason jabs the famous metal rod through the windshield. Yeah. If you can see, the metal rod doesn't go straight through. It actually glances off of something and goes in diagonally. And you're thinking, wow, that was a really cool stunt. I wonder how they pulled that off. It was an accident, and they actually almost, when Jason
the safety budget wasn't big.
No, when Jason does seal the deal with her, by the way, number one, it's an effective kill because you don't actually see him kill her. Instead, it leaves a lot of it up to your imagination, and it's so well shot that you're just like, whoa, whatever I've got up here is way worse than anything
in my
they could
head,
show me on.
It's a pole for the face.
Yes.
That's
way worse than anything they could show me. Secondly, right after that, if you paid attention, all of her money and credit cards floating in the water.
An American Express card.
No, it says American Excess card. American Excess. which I think is amazing.
They
It's
put in
such
subtext to this film,
Yes, it is
commenting
an
on the
amazing joke that you miss if you don't look at it. But yes, the card says American Excess Card.
Oh wow,
It's like,
that is
oh,
yeah, that is full on. If you think about them commenting on the current, the '80s, the era of excess, and they're
absolutely.
commenting.
There's nothing like a movie made solely to make money, making fun of a society that makes money.
That's oh my god, I just now love this film on another level just because of
Yes,
that.
yes.
That's incredible. That is so cool.
There is something else. I'm sorry. Go
Yeah, go
ahead.
on.
I keep jumping on you. You go
No,
ahead.
no, you're right. I was going to talk about the paintballers because I really enjoy the whole paintballers scene because it's just a different type of prey for Jason, and it was just fun to,
middle of the day
see
too.
a bunch of middle-aged white men get it. It was fun in that sense, and I thought it was good. And yeah, so it's the angry dead paintballer that gets face thrown into a tree, the smiley face tree.
Yes.
Meantime, Jason has ripped off his arm and leg, I think, because later on they show an arm and a leg.
No, that was the guy who runs away at the end. You never see Jason catch him.
Because
you actually wonder throughout most of the movie, what happened to this guy? And then later they find pieces of him everywhere. It's like, oh, Jason outwalked him.
I got you. Yeah. But see, they know they're having fun because at one point in that paintballer scene, they start using comedy music in the background.
They do, yes.
The soundtrack goes goofy.
It's almost like the background music to Police Academy.
Yeah, which is sealed off beautifully by a triple kill.
Yes, a triple.
Not that we get to see a lot of the triple kill, but we get to see it.
No, again, this movie relies on your imagination rather than showing you everything, which I think is also a great choice because I think that our imaginations are going to be way more provocative than anything else that this movie could throw at us. Although this movie does do something that I think is ingenious and makes me wonder why they never did it before, especially since this movie takes place, almost all the movies takes place at a camp. They add children.
I know, and they use it
brings a whole new level of suspense, and it raises the stakes so much because these kids are not annoying. They're actual kids. I think only 3 of them have lines. You have the little girl who has nightmares. The little girl who has nightmares, and her name is Nancy. Another joke. And then you have the 2 boys who are always making these little quips to each other about, so what did you want to be when you grew up? We're dead meat, dude. They're not annoying. They're just kids. And you're just like, would Jason kill a kid or would he spare them?
I don't know, man, because he busts into that later in that film, into that dorm room and walks towards them. I think that's where the film is. That's where it's dancing on the line, but not crossing it. It's going, oh, we might kill the kids. You never know.
Yeah, and like I said, it brings a whole new level of suspense to this movie. And one of my favorite jokes as an English teacher is in this movie.
Okay.
Because at one point it's showing all these children in their bunks asleep, and some of them have little stuffed animals, some of them have little kids' books. One of them has a copy of Jean-Paul Sartre's novel No Exit. This book... This book is about 3 deceased souls who are brought to hell and lie about their reasons for ever being brought there. That's where we get the line, hell is other people from. And I think that it's outstanding that they just, for absolutely no reason, you have an 8-year-old girl with this book.
Yeah.
I think that's
when
beautiful.
You talk about production value, they're things that raise it. Because they're adding different layers. This is the thing I'm learning tonight doing this with you, Jason. Already you've given me a couple examples of where the director has gone beyond the surface level of what's on the screen and is adding subtext to this film, which is an important ingredient for a great movie. And it's fantastic.
There's so many in-jokes in this. And Nancy, the little girl who was having nightmares, they called Nancy. A little shout out to not Friday the 13th, to Nightmare on Elm Street. We have another inadvertent connection to Nightmare on Elm Street in this movie, and that is Mr. Alice Cooper. Alice Cooper provides one original song to this movie, which is The Man Behind the Mask, which is a bop, by the way. But you also hear Teenage Frankenstein in the RV. Alice Cooper turns around in about 10 years and he plays Freddy Krueger's father. So
does.
could be that this is where the rivalry between Fred and Jason started off. I'm not
Wow.
sure.
Wow. That RV scene, though, what an iconic shot. When you're
Oh.
talking about, don't know if I've got it. I'm throwing it up on screen now. But that shot of Jason standing on the RV when it's on fire around him.
Amazing shot, amazing crash,
Like,
and it was the last shot they did for the movie because they didn't want to risk the movie in case they killed the stuntman,
yeah.
which I think is just.
But I just love how he
Wow.
jumps out of the wreck like a pimp, though.
Yes,
There's
so-
jumps out, stands out.
I can't get over the fact that Jason shoves the girl's head into the mirror and you see the dent on the outside in the shape of her face. Makes absolutely no sense and it's stupid, but that by that point it's just like it's Friday the 13th part 6.
But what it
Who
does
cares?
do, it reminds the audience that this guy is freakishly strong.
Yes, it is.
I mean, yeah, it doesn't make any sense, but it certainly sells that message. When Jason grabs you, mate, he crushes you like an egg.
One thing in this movie that I noticed that never carried over to any other movie, Jason has a utility belt, just like Batman. He wears a belt and he's got weapons in his belt and he brings them out for whatever he needs them for. And I'm
It's
just
the
like,
first time that
is-
makes sense because Jason likes a diverse set of killing tools. He likes to change it up.
Later he just becomes very pragmatic and just, if there is a rake next to you and he catches you and there's a rake nearby, he's going to kill you with the rake. Later on, if he catches somebody else and there's a pencil nearby, he's going to kill you with the pencil. If he
What do you
catches,
think Jason does on the weekends? Do you
if
think
he
goes to
catches
hardware
somebody
stores?
outside and they're walking their dog, he's going to somehow kill you with your dog.
I've just got this image of him in hardware stores on the weekend, just browsing at things, going, "Oh, that would be good. That would be right." And he's a great customer, so the manager always says hello to him, and he gets the new stuff coming out at discounted price. I could see
Absolutely, never said. He's like, well, he never says anything, but he always pays in cash.
that. Yeah,
He's always
pays in
polite.
cash. Yeah. I
Just
have to
spray a
clean
little
the
bit
money
of Febreze
occasionally.
after he's gone, and he's fine.
Yeah.
Did you ever see? I don't think it was for this movie. I think it was for part 8. But Jason Voorhees in full costume appeared on the Arsenio Hall show, and
I have seen
Arsenio
that clip.
Hall tries to interview him, and Jason, who I believe is being played by Kane Hodder at the time, just sits there and stares at him during the entire interview. And whenever the audience starts laughing, Jason just slowly turns and looks at the audience.
Yes.
And then
I've
he
seen that
slowly
clip.
turns and looks back at Arsenio Hall. And Arsenio Hall is getting visibly nervous during this interview.
Pretty great.
It is.
Hey,
it is
I've got to say,
television
while
goodness.
you mention this too, I think I've mentioned it in the last number 5. I think I'd said in that one that Kane Hodder had come into that movie. That is incorrect.
No.
This is Kane Hodder's first appearance. This movie, correct?
No.
No, am I wrong again? It's next movie, 7, 8, 9.
I actually don't think that Kane Hodder, which I may have been wrong whenever I said that, but I don't think Kane Hodder takes over the role of Jason until Jason Goes to Hell, which is so funny
have a
because
look.
we
Well,
associated
according
him.
to the internet, his first appearance, and I'm wrong again, guys. I'm going to cut this bit out anyway, so don't.
Yeah.
Part
8. No, part 7.
7. Part
Yeah, so
8,
the next one is his.
and part 9 and 10 he does. Strangely enough, he doesn't do Freddy versus Jason.
He didn't do Freddy's versus Jason because he was not invited back. Because they wanted someone who was physically the same size as Robert Englund. Which,
okay.
Did they really?
No,
they
because he
didn't.
was the dumb brute and Krueger was the manipulator. Yeah. Him being bigger would have actually made more visual sense, but whatever.
I have met Kane Hodder, and he is one of the nicest, coolest people I have ever met.
Yeah?
Yes, he's amazing.
Oh, that's great to hear. That's always nice when you hear that these people are not D-bags or anything like that. I love it when Jason arrives to camp because I'm feeling for Jason in that moment that he's home. It's time to get to work.
There's a mythology that they're respecting here, which I respect
and they do
as
a
well.
shot with him just walking in, and we see the sign of the camp, and it just felt like something. It was the first time in 4 movies that were really back there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty nuts that we actually get back there, which is cool. Now, some of the great kills. I like the African American girl gets her head ripped off. Nice.
Yes. It's such a simple effect, and I thought it was great.
It's really cool. There are way less characters in this to kill. Did you notice that?
But there's still a body count of like 18 people. So, I mean, even though there aren't that many established characters, there's lots of cannon fodder.
There's lots of cannon fodder, and they kill a lot of them before they even get to the camp. So that's how
really
that kind of
do.
works
Yes.
out. Before they were kids get to camp, they do sinful things, then they die. So, and I think that's what keeps this fresh too, is that we're not following that exact same formula as we did in 2, 3, 4. Specifically, at least anyway.
They cut it down to bare bones here. They just say, this didn't work, this did work, let's go with what did work. And it works. It works perfectly.
Yeah. Can you explain this sign here, the speeding sign with a question mark underneath it? Do you remember that bit? When Tommy's driving off, him and the chick, Megan and Tommy, they're driving off to get to, I can't remember where they get to. They go past the speeding sign. And the speeding sign says speeding and then a question mark. You didn't notice that?
Guessing that it's probably just a reminder put up by cops, like, are you speeding? Do you want to be pulled over?
Oh, well, that whole scene turns into Smokey and the Bandit, mind you.
Absolutely. Maybe the Cannonball Run went through there and they were just putting up reminders. Oh, that's a crossover we need. Cannonball Run versus Friday the 13th. You give Jason Voorhees his own vehicle and just have him chase all the other racers. I think it would be amazing.
The fact that
Cannonball the 13th.
Cannonball the 13th. The fact that they stick to some of the classic kills of Jason, though, I thought they really sprinkled in a nice sense of freshness. Specifically loved that the machete is always covered in blood. Just a nice little touch there. But, we get the classic throwing the body through the window gag, which is great, which I always love a body thrown through the window, which was pretty cool. One of the most terrifying moments isn't a death in this film. It's the moment Jason goes into the dorm and the little girl's in bed and he leans over to her.
Yes.
When I talked about earlier about dancing the line, this is the line. When he is like, and at that moment, they never specifically say he's going to kill her or he's going to let her go. He gets distracted.
Yes. I like the theory that he was not going to hurt the children.
Oh, Jason doesn't kill kids.
No, he does not kill children because he too was once a children. And he was at his most vulnerable whenever he was a child. And so I think that...
And he's still intellectually a child.
In my headcanon, he doesn't see them as children. He sees them as kindred spirits almost. Yeah. And so it's the same reason why I think he allowed Corey Feldman to get close to him. It wasn't that Corey Feldman was outsmarting him. It's that Corey Feldman was just a kid.
I like how the sheriff gets it in this movie. Did you...
Oh, yeah, he's folded like a lawn chair. It's fun.
It's amazing. And you know
really
how they
is.
did that? It's a very simple stunt. They had dug a hole, got someone to go head first into the hole with their legs sticking out. He's then sitting down and then just has to fall back. But it's the sound effect that sells it. The sound effect
sells it,
the crunch of the vertebrae, snapping is just so cool. Tommy has a plan. That's what else is great about this movie. He literally has a plan on what to do about this. And I feel like it was something that was such a simple thing to add to this script, but essentially important for the third act, because you are not just watching kills, there's a mission to be accomplished.
My question is, we see him with all the occult books in his vehicle, and he's reading them, and that's how he gets the idea that Jason has to go back to where he came from to be put to sleep forever. My question is, when did he get those books?
I don't know.
Because Jason was not a zombie at the very beginning of this movie. Tommy had no idea nobody had an idea that Jason was going to become a zombie. So did he go visit an occult bookstore somewhere? Did he go run to Ray's occult bookstore to get all these zombie books and then read them in the car?
Just some poor old lady keeps going to the library. Have they returned that book on the occult yet? No, but however, because of the events of part 5, and he doesn't know whether Jason's around or he's in his head or he's going insane, maybe he would get into occult books to try to understand what was going on in his own mind.
Perhaps so. It's just a
but it's a leap, isn't it?
It's a funny little plot hole that we don't really think about. And if you're thinking this hard about this movie, I'm going to implore you again, don't.
I think it's fair to say this is being looked through eyes of people who have seen it way too much.
Yes.
So. Jason under the boat. Okay, we're going to get to the ending here. Fucking these little callbacks to Jaws in this film. There's a moment like he's going under the boat like he's a shark circling him. Absolutely love it. It's a pretty good plan.
It is a good plan. And I'm just wondering, because obviously they're going to keep the camp open because they don't have the common sense to close it. Are they just going to rope off that part of the lake to say, don't swim over there, Cindy. If you feel something tickling your toes, get away, okay? That's Mr. Voorhees. No, don't swim down there with some goggles. Trust me, don't do that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing. Nobody actually goes looking for him at any point.
No, why would you?
You know, especially in the future movies. But it's just, like I like about it because it's pretty simple. You don't need a lot of props. You needed a big rock. You needed a chain. Is it Megan? Megan gets used as cannon fodder for that plan, though.
Oh, yeah.
She's the one who has to lure him. And then he yells out, Jason. Now, here's the thing. So, does Jason recognize Tommy?
I don't see how, because Tommy's been played by 3 different actors so far. Jason!
But,
who is that?
In this universe,
is that Tom Matthews? I loved you in Return of the Living Dead.
Yeah, I just don't see him looking at Tommy and going, oh, you were that kid that, put a giant machete through my skull. Oh, yeah, how you doing, buddy? Yeah, I'll come over and have a chat. I don't see that kind of working, but whatever it takes to lure Jason. At this point, I think they know they've got a sequel in mind because you know it because it's the way the killers. They're not trying to decapitate him. They're not trying to turn him into ash or anything else like that. They're just storing his body away, keeping it fresh for the next time. It's a film where a lot of people survive at the end of this one, which is, again, for a high body count film, a lot of people make it.
Yes, and there's a sense of, it's funny, there's a sense of finality at the end, even though you know that a sequel is being prepared. They tell a nice little story. They put a bow at the end, and they don't really. They're sequel baiting, but it's not obvious. You know that there's a way to make a sequel, but they don't just go, there's the sequel coming.
Well, at least this time they don't throw in a random, end of movie scene that doesn't make any continuity sense. This time it's built into the story.
Yes,
because the plan is to put him underwater. That's it. So they're very aware when they're writing this. They don't have to have a kid jumping out of a boat. They don't have to have a big scare at the end.
Tommy doesn't grab a hockey mask and goes, ah!
I thought it was a nice choice to make the first image of Jason is also the last image of Jason, and that's a close-up of his eye opening.
Yes.
That was a nice little touch as well to bring it full circle for his character. Jason has a story arc in this movie.
Strangely enough, yes.
He does. So, which is wonderful. Yeah, the Alice Cooper, Man Behind the Mask, song. That was a great song back in the day, and
still a great song.
Yeah, and it works so well for this film. It's a tight film that only runs. I'm pretty sure it's a real.
It's the shortest one.
86 minutes long.
Yes.
And that would include credits.
I actually remember the first VCR my family ever owned. One of the first things I recorded on that VCR was Showtime would play the music video for Alice Cooper's Man Behind the Mask, and they'd show clips of Friday the 13th Part 7 to, advertise that it was in theaters. And I recorded that, and I'd watch that video over and over and over again, and I just loved it. Certainly the strongest Friday the 13th, by far. Not only, this was my second favourite, clearly after rewatching it now, after last time I maybe watched it, it's the early 90s, is absolutely the best one so far. It is, and I love it.
Yeah, my eyes now move forward to, I think my next probably favourite is a movie in a couple of weeks. But I do remember liking A New Blood, which will be our next Friday the 13th movie we do.
Yes. And I think it's very interesting because A New Blood actually started out as a completely different movie that eventually got made.
Great.
So
Well,
you're
you'll be
seeing-
able to fill us in about
Yes.
all that on our next Friday the 13th, Jace.
Absolutely.
Be
We're going to
amazing,
review
but
the
before
rough
we-
draft that is Friday the 13th, Part 7.
But, of course, before we go, it's that time again, Jason.
Favorite time,
Our
yes.
favourite time is when we get to spin the wheel. So let me just add that
The
wheel
Wheel of Fate.
to the stream. And we're on actually not even on the right one. So let's go back to genre. We've jumped ahead there. I don't know why we're on that screen. But here we go. So then we're gonna spin for our genre and then select our next film. That
Fingers
is what?
crossed for animated. I would love to do an animated movie.
Yeah, I hear you. I'd go
That'd
with
be
that.
fun.
Let's find out what's gonna be. What's it gonna be?
Oh, just barely
We're
missed
close.
it. Yeah, we're close. Family movies can be fun.
Oh, did you hear that little applause then?
Yes, very nice. That's
Very
a nice touch.
All right, let's go to the family film. I can't remember what you put in here, so I'm fascinated to see.
I don't remember what I put in there either. I'm
Well,
pretty
there's
sure
a lot.
since it's the 80s, I'm sure it's something that'll traumatize a lot of children.
Yeah, let's have a look at the entries then. Can I get to the entries, or it's just not going to let me? Because I'd like.
Well,
to.
I'm seeing Ernest Goes to Camp, Pee-wee's Big
Yep.
Adventure, Annie, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Batteries Not Included, The Monster Squad. I don't know what that's doing in family movies. What's wrong with me?
Monster Squad's a family
Oh,
movie, isn't it?
speaking of trauma, Return to Oz
Yeah, that maybe could have been in the horror section.
and
but-
more trauma, Mac and Me.
Yeah,
There's
nah.
The Quest, The Peanut Butter Solution, Follow That Bird, Popeye, The Great Muppet Caper. So there's some
I
good
don't know
ones
if I
here.
could emotionally handle Milo and Otis though. Again,
Knowing what
know
I
if I
know
could
about
do
it now, I would definitely have issues. But,
yes,
you know,
yes, I forgot about that. Yes, we will
yes,
have big issues. with
definite
that one.
issues with that movie. But
Ooh.
if it comes up, we will tackle
Well,
it.
but let's find out, Jace. Let's spin this wheel.
Oh gosh, the
Oh.
Ewoks movies are on there too. How
What were you
fun!
thinking?
Oh no! Oh,
Oh,
the Muppets Take Manhattan!
Awesome!
Awesome.
Awesome.
Muppets movie.
I love that. I can say right now, I saw that movie at the cinema, big time.
I don't
That
think
was
I've-
as a kid. That was like, Mum and Dad take it into that movie.
I think the only Muppets movie I've ever seen in theaters was the Muppets reboot with Jason Segel, and I love that movie.
Yeah. Hey.
That's the only one I've ever seen in theaters.
Now, people who watch this may also know we're in another show called Captain's Quadrant, and there is a Star Trek tie to Muppets Take Manhattan, which
Yes.
is awesome. Oh, Beverly Crusher, Gates McFadden in the
Gates
movie.
McFadden.
So-
She's credited as a different name, I believe, but
Yes.
it is the Dr. Bev is Blazing Bev is there, and she's seeing puppets.
Which is amazing. Well, I can't wait to watch that one. All right, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next episode of the what do we call the show? Oh, that's right, the VHS Vault.